Alvini Laguini. How you been, man? It's been quite some time since we last seen each other's paths, and I'm back seeing yours once again. I won't try to make this too long. We're just gonna get right into it. What happened to every generational NBA prospect since LeBron James? Some of them were bust. Some of them aren't doing too well. I won't call them bust. And others are just thriving in other places where they weren't before. I mean, it just
Hype.
happens.
There are only a small group of players that can ever be debated that had generational hype coming into the NBA. But it's become so mainstream to hype someone up to superstardom before they even touch an
Facts.
NBA
It happens
court.
all the time.
And of course, our main example of that will be LeBron James being called the chosen one in high school and exalted as the next big NBA player.
But the only thing about him is that he's actually managed to make that a reality. People consider him the greatest of all time. He is the leading scorer of all time. He's one of the goats. I'm not going to say he's a goat. He is one of the goats of basketball. And he was that way before he was that in way before he was even in the NBA. It's crazy.
A player coming out of high school. But the thing about that is LeBron James was actually able to validate that hype. As we all know, 21 seasons later as the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, a four-time NBA champion, a four-time NBA MVP.
He let it be known that those weren't lies. 21 years later. Now he don't give a fuck what people talking about. He just broke the all-time leading scorer record. 30 years running. Come on.
Even with that being regarded as one of the best players of all time, if not the best player,
exactly.
The basketball world has been waiting to see who would just be considered the next big player after he.
And there's so many. I said I wasn't gonna pause too much, and I'm paused like 80 times in 44 seconds. And there's been a lot of generational prospects, lots. And I can't wait to. And let's just watch him get into it.
All these years, we may actually be able to see that in Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4", 8'.
But is he really the generational talent of this generation? Is he really though?
Prospect from France, and probably one of the most unique.
Because people said that about so many people before him. Look where they at now, and those people, a lot of them are tough.
Ever seen. But as his career just gets started, who are the people in between who are also considered the next big prospect? And what became of them with all the hype given to them? That is the subject of today's video as we see what gave these group of players this hype, how they used it to their advantage, and finally, how their NBA careers turned out.
And plus, some of them are just at really bad teams. They're getting their shine on a terrible team, but they're not getting their shine to actually show that they are one of the greatest to be an NBA prospect. I mean, a generational talent. Oh, whatever the fuck I'm saying. Anthony Edwards is up there for them.
End of the day. With that being
he's
said,
making that team. He putting that team on his goddamn back. Swear.
If you want to see more videos like these, be sure to like the video, and we are now officially on the road to 100K, and be sure to subscribe to be a part of that and to catch more videos. But as usual, this will be a long.
And they're not saying like #1 pick or nothing like that. He's just saying every generational NBA prospect. And Luka, Ja, Zion, LaMelo. Damn, who the fuck was that last person? Oh, Anthony Edwards. Like, all the niggas are literally. Are literally that.
And we are now officially
let's go. Come on.
And be sure to subscribe to be a part of that and to catch more videos. But as usual, this will be a long one, but you already know who it is. Wallet! 3, 2,
1. Are you regarding them Oh, you said prospect. I was gonna say, like, after a couple years, does that count? But no,
But before we start, let me take the time to thank today's video sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, the largest injury law firm.
That's Morgan & Morgan. So you said, huh? I think I will be feeling better if I never in an injury. If I call Morgan & Morgan, I might want to call State Auto instead. 4
years after LeBron James' initial start of his NBA career. We'll start off this video. It takes place 4 years after LeBron James' initial start of his NBA career. Every year, the NBA is always looking for the next great big man, including the likes of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal, etc., etc. But in the 2007 draft, that person who was given that generational label for centers was the big man from Ohio State, Greg Oden. Now, as we all know, Greg Oden nowadays, for his story from the aspects of his shortcomings and his depression during and after his NBA career, has been terrible.
I didn't even realize he went to Ohio State. Damn. But that was a while ago. I wasn't even 3. But, okay, I'm not going to try and pause too much. But he's still in the league. The last time I checked, I think it was just last year. He probably retired. But he's still in the league right now. He's doing pretty decent for... I don't remember the team. But I might be getting him mixed up with somebody.
Focus on his basketball upbringing that gave him the label as the next great big
but yeah, he
man
didn't really show that drive. He didn't really show it.
Generational NBA player. Greg Oden has had NBA superstars.
No, I'm thinking of Udonis Haslem. My fault.
Over him since he was in high school. And while this was before the likes of the current high school basketball scene that we know about online, that is more business-oriented than basketball-oriented at times, Greg Oden was one of the most dominant players in the 2006 high school class, leading his Lawrence High School in Indiana to 3 consecutive 4A high school state championships. While at Lawrence North in his senior year, he averaged 22 points and 10 rebounds a game.
That's crazy. 3 years in a row, he led his team.
Owning the National Basketball Player of the Year in both his junior, which is rarely done, and senior year. And as you can expect, was also the Gatorade Player of the Year in his own state. But while his stats probably don't pop out with you, the talks about him were on the level of another all-time great big man. Here is a quote from a longtime Indiana basketball reporter in Gary Donna. Greg Oden, George McGinnis, and Oscar Robertson are the most dominant players I have ever seen. There have been a lot of 6'10", 6'11 players, but there has never been one like Greg Oden. Due to his play at Lawrence, he would only make his name more well known, ending his high school career as a McDonald's All-American and leading his high school to being the #1 ranked team in the United States of America.
Oh my God.
But if his high school campaign wasn't enough, he'd go on to Ohio State to show that exact same dominance and prove that it wasn't a fluke by any means as a freshman, averaging a similar 15
He did
points.
well for like a couple years, if I'm not mistaken. God damn, now I'm put on the spot and I can't ever remember anything. I can't remember if it was Cleveland or the Heat, but I think he's been doing. He did really well until I think he got injured some time ago.
10 rebounds and 3 blocks.
I don't remember. Back then, I wasn't really watching basketball.
The Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, a consensus All-American, the Big Ten Tournament MVP, and even led the Buckeyes to the finals of the national tournament against the legendary Florida Dynasty at the time, losing 84-75. But he couldn't be blamed for it, scoring 25 points and blocking 4 shots in that effort. At this point, he achieved everything.
You don't hear his name no more.
Outside of being a national champion in the college level. But unlike the old days where players played for multiple years in college, Greg Oden proved that he did enough to warrant going to the NBA right away. Despite people thinking that he could never be a great NBA player coming right out of high school due to his stature, eye of the game, and agility for his size. The only concern was the slight wrist injury that he sustained, but the fact that he played his entire freshman year with a messed up wrist and still did what he did only makes him a more attractive player. But coming into the NBA Draft Combine, he only made his stock rise higher as the race for the #1 pick between him and Kevin Durant. Things were so hyped in the city of Portland with the marketing campaign in the city itself. It's probably the biggest you'll ever see for a top pick in a draft at the time. Even bigger than what San Antonio fans did for Wemby. But while I could explain how the competition went between Oden and KD, I think this radio clip from Colin...
Isn't this kind of crazy? Isn't this kind of crazy? He's 6'10", 6'11", but people consider him to be 7 foot. You know, 6'11", but scratching, or is 7 foot, but he's like 3-4 inches shorter than Greg Oden. So what the fuck? In those years, did he gain like 4 inches, 5? Like what are we talking about?
Radio show will do it much more justice.
The Oregonian, that's the primary newspaper in Portland. The Oregonian has secured the official weights, measurements, and testing.
Okay,
results.
I wasn't mistaken. It was Portland that Oden went to. I was getting confused. Oh my God, I didn't even say it. I said I said Cavaliers and the motherfucking Heat. God damn, I really meant to add the Trailblazers. Oh my God.
From the Orlando
It was on the tip of my brain, but it didn't come out the top, but it didn't come out my mouth.
Camp.
Damn.
And wait until you get a load of the freak of nature called Greg Oden. For starters, his numbers blow Kevin Durant of Texas completely out of the water. Players were rated on how many times they could bench press 185 pounds. That is important. Even though it's not as important as the NFL, reality is the NBA season is long, your durability and your core strength is
but really... look whose career is going that much better.
Only one player in the pre-draft camp was unable to bench even 185 pounds. Crazy. Kevin Durant.
And I say that again. Look at the fucking career now. He's been in this bitch 18 years.
Come on. That is embarrassing. I'm a talk show host and I bench over 185. That is brutal. Greg Oden is faster than Durant in the three-quarter court sprint. He is quicker than Durant in the lane agility drill and has better numbers in the running and standing vertical jumps. In the standing vertical jump, a 7-foot center got a better vertical than Kevin Durant. And Greg Oden has
He was tearing into this nigga Kevin Durant. Did he have a problem with Kevin Durant? Like, damn.
Mind-boggling 7.8 body fat percentage.
Oh, God.
I'm here to tell you I measure mine once a month. That is unbelievable. That guy is tight. For most big men, it's above 12%. Oden is 6'11 without shoes, 7 feet with him, 257 pounds, an incredible wingspan, standing reach is 9 feet 4.
That nigga 8 inches is deep in his throat.
The highest of anybody in the draft. Oh, it's not even
that
close.
Bitch was touching his colon, dude.
The big guy has a much better body and is faster and quicker and more agile than the wing guy.
That's crazy,
draft over. Portland's taking Greg Oden. It's over. There's no other argument. Any talk show host, any emailer, any caller that goes on and says Durant should be number one, in doing their homework or is just trying to incite calls and be controversial. Greg Oden is the number one pick. It's all over.
And while that may have not been the nail in the coffin, it was certainly a funny conversation in the debate between those two. Now, as we all know, he was drafted first overall with superstar potential written all over for him. But as we all know, his career ended just as quickly as it started, getting a microfracture surgery on his knee. And ended his rookie season again before he could even step on an NBA court. Getting a foot injury in his actual debut a year later that knocked him out a few games, and then kneecap surgery while
injuries hit that nigga hard, bro. That's
in a February matchup. And after a less than stellar rookie season, people had hope that he would bounce back. And that's exactly what he was doing his second actual season, where he looked to have a breakout season, showing strides defensively as a top shot blocker in the league and getting more looks as a scorer. But that was until he tore his patella in his left leg that prematurely ended his career and started a further whirlwind of setbacks that only allowed Greg to play 105 games in 7 years of service, missing 4 of them entirely. As we all know, his time off the court was a complete nightmare, but I will not be covering that. But the potential of Greg Oden was obviously there. But if there's one thing
it just got shattered by injuries, bro.
It is a human body and its shortcomings. But while he didn't reach his potential that many have labeled him with since high school, everyone can at least give him a pass due to his injury history. Now we never got to see him at his full potential in the absolute slightest.
I wonder now. I actually wondered, would he have been better than Kevin Durant at this point in time if he was actually able to play, or would have Kevin Durant have watched him?
It is very rare to get multiple Hall of Fame worthy players in a draft
class. That's
together. But it's
crazy.
even more
Kevin
rare
Durant's
to have
next.
two players considered to be generational prospects in that same class.
That's
While
insane.
Greg Oden was considered to be the number one guy in high school, college, and in the NBA draft, the guy who was always in his shadow at the number 2 was just as amazing, if not even more spectacular, in a totally different
Like, they the
fashion.
same
And
height,
that
but what
hurt.
was that picture? You bitch ass nigga. You just cropped that nigga picture and put a separate. Whatever.
That was the number 2 recruit in the 2006 high school class was Kevin Durant. We talk about the very tall players who can
His shit
dribble,
was already
shoot,
fading as a high school.
his own shot like a guard, like we do at Wemby, Bol in high school, and many others. But one of the originals was Kevin
Absolutely.
Durant, growing to be the height of 6'7" and going to Mount Rose Academy in high school, averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals, 2.5 blocks a game. He was considered to have the entire package of a basketball player.
How
but
does Greg Oden, even though at the same time, how does Greg Oden have better quality highlights than this nigga? That is so crazy.
also continue to grow more to where he'd be marked as 6'10" going into his freshman year at Texas. But just taking a look at his high school highlights,
That's
you
crazy.
can tell already, with some time growing into his body with a very, very slight frame of 6'10" and 215 pounds going into college, and a few years professional basketball, he'd become absolutely impossible to stop at the NBA level. However, once again, even though he was hyped to the moon and back as a potential all-time great, one thing that always kept him behind Greg Oden was the fact that we've truly never seen a player like KD before, while we've seen plenty of players like Greg before. Your prototypical 7-foot big to deal with other bigs, defensive instincts and agility.
But he
second
made
to
it.
none.
He
But for
made the
KD,
versatileness of a big person, larger person, become a thing.
as the saying goes, people
I'm not
fear
saying
the
that because, you know, look at fucking Dirk Nowitzki, but somebody. But yeah, he really did that.
While KD himself knew his own potential, people all over gave him 1 or 2 comparisons. Tracy McGrady, due to their similarities as tall wings, even though KD is taller, who would become a mismatch nightmare for everyone, or an old school name that never made it and was similar to him stature-wise, Jonathan Bender. For those who don't know, Jonathan Bender was the 5th pick of the 1999 draft and was considered to be the same as KD, a 6'11" wing that can create their own shot and took over the high school ranks. But due to that size, injuries, and simply just not being used right, he faded out of the NBA very quickly, to make a long story short. But KD was absolutely different, and he showcased that at Texas, where he'd be one of the best college freshmen ever.
And it's crazy, we saw him in high school. He looked like he had no coordination. He looked like he could break at any moment. But now look at this nigga. This nigga is a stature of a fucking horse, my nigga.
Stat line because
he making this shit like look easy. He's solid. He don't look like he gonna break. Like, I can't even explain it because I saw that fucking clip. It looked terrible. It looked like he could break. It didn't look like he had any coordination. He was tall, lanky, limpy. But now when you look at him now, this shit's all compacted. It's everything, bro. It's crazy.
Talking about college KD. 25 points, 11 rebounds, and a shade under 2 blocks and 2 steals a game.
Damn.
And his shooting splits were also amazing, with 47% from the field, 40% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. KD was the real deal, and no one could tell him otherwise. And the only reason he wasn't taken number 1 was due to his combine controversy, and of course, Greg Oden seeming like the more automatic pick than someone like KD, despite the amazing season he just had offensively. But as we all know, KD once again coming second place to Greg Oden, made sure at the end of the day the Trailblazers regretted not taking him, and that he is known as the best player in the draft years later and one of the best of all time. As we know, KD has done a lot and is still doing a lot right now. He just passed the King 12 overall in points in a career and closing in on Elvin Hayes for 11. Won multiple championships and is regarded as one of the best small forwards of all time. Even if his career decisions aren't really viewed as the best, his basketball skills must be respected no matter what. But the social media era hasn't eventually started yet.
Like, when I just seen those clips and I'm seeing this, it's totally different, nigga, bro.
Or word of mouth. So I can only imagine how the KD hype was never worldly known, so the criticism was valid about the real future outlook of a build of a player that is rarely ever seen, if ever seen, compared to the automatic build of a 7-foot giant like Greg Oden. But years later, we just see how KD proved everyone he doubted wrong, and then some. All the hype that he was given in high school was absolutely valid 19 years later, And again, he is one of the most generational NBA prospects that we have ever seen since LeBron James.
Now that I look at it, it wasn't what I was thinking.
2007 to 2011, the hype for certain players.
Eric Gordon was in this class. Damn. Is that Russell? The Lopez brothers. Okay, I'm about to say it's one time and one time only. Who the fuck are the rest of these niggas? Who is this? 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 Who the fuck is this? Who the hell is this? Who the fucking shit is this? And who the hell is this guy? Where's Anthony Davis? I don't see that nigga anywhere. Only name I give a fuck about 2, 4, 5? Nah.
The players we talked about before. You had some players though who had their fun under the sun and actual attention.
Oh shit.
The players we talked about.
Oh shit, I forgot. Ricky Rubio, that shit is so wild to me. That shit is so wild to me, bro. That shit is so wild to me, bro. Look at Ricky Rubio. That nigga had the face of an actual baby. And people were on his head about pews, but this nigga's face was insane. But he was from Saudi Arabia. No, not Saudi Arabia. Serbia. So, it was gonna grow.
You had some players, though, who had their fun under the sun.
Nigga's tall as shit. 6'3". This nigga looks ridiculous.
Like a Chicago legend, Derrick Rose. But compared to who we'll talk about next, it is nowhere even near. But funny enough, the next person we'll talk about is a Chicago native and another never-before-seen prospect before, and that is Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis wasn't a highly touted high school recruit and thought as a generational prospect until later in his high school career. Mainly because he was a 6'3" point guard, with his only college offer at the time being Cleveland State as a junior. But at the end of his junior year, he grew into a 6'8" wing, and finally a 6'10" big come his senior season. But what had people absolutely shook about AD at the time, outside of his out-of-nowhere height transformation, was the ability to retain his dribbling abilities and to shut down people defensively with his long wingspan.
He looks absolutely enormous.
Points, 18 rebounds, 4 steals,
he looks gigantic.
This, 7 blocks a game. This would shoot him
they
all
had
the way
no
up
chance
to the number
stopping
1 spot
him.
of the 2011 high school class over future NBA players like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, a physical monster, Andre Drummond, Austin Rivers, and Bradley Beal. And it was due to his all-around offensive ability with his staggering 7'6" wingspan that was able to contest or block any shot that came his way. And what people loved about him most was the fact that he had a trajectory of an all-around skilled center that absolutely no one could contest.
Oh my God, he put dick in his throat.
Dribble his way around with the ball on the ground. He has a shooting form.
He made this shit look like kids.
He has the wingspan to rise over any.
He's a monster among kids. Oh my God. He looked like a fucking bulldozer.
Off the bounce or dribble his way around with the ball on the
ground. They
ground.
weren't stopping
He has a shooting
shit.
form from his guard days to shoot on the perimeter. He has the wingspan to rise over any other bigs in the post and have his way offensively and defensively. Any way you see it, AD was the ultimate center prospect, and the hype around it was due to it. And the hype only grew where AD would once again defend his status, having one of the best freshman campaigns in college basketball history, averaging 14 points, 10 rebounds, and a staggering 4.7 blocks a game, which led the NCAA in both total and average that season. Again, as a 6'10", 220-pound soaking wet freshman coming out of high school, defending the best of the best in the college game to his ability. If you want to put this more into perspective, AD's 186 blocks in his freshman year puts him 5th all-time in blocks in the season behind NBA legends like Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson.
Oh my
God. At the same time, he showed more of that all-around game with pick and pop.
In just one season.
Around other big men and doing very well at averaging 63% from the field.
Nah.
But where he really shined was in the national tournament, where he won the entire thing as the MVP of the tournament and getting 6 blocks in the final game to take down Kansas.
God.
Where even though he went 1 of 10 from the field, he affected the game in another way
on the
6
defensive
blocks
end
and 3 steals alongside.
That's perfect. That can turn the tide of any game.
point, denying Anthony Davis was impossible. Winning every NCAA award there was and winning the big dance as the MVP of it.
Damn.
So, of course, carrying on from his high school hype and his now more than deserved hype from college, he was taken #1 overall in the 2012 NBA draft. But the only thing is, compared to the other two guys we talked about, did he live up to his hype given to him throughout his high school and now college career?
Right now, like right now, present time, people would say no. Me personally, I don't really watch him enough, but I would say yeah.
And no, it's no doubt that Anthony Davis has continued to be one of the best bigs in the NBA, and to even a consensus top 10 player in the NBA itself. But he for sure knows how to fall short sometimes, whether it's his body failing him, which has been his most daring narrative about him, or him failing his team as we've seen in the playoffs last year. I'm talking about. But overall, he has been certainly earned and kept that hype alive year after year. Did people expect more from him?
My God!
Sure. Absolutely, for sure.
Hell yeah, people expect more from him.
Warrant all that hype after a decade of NBA service? Most certainly. But is he a top 75 player of all time? Well, I will definitely let you decide that one.
I wouldn't
so far,
think so.
We've talked about 3 American
How is Kyrie not up there? That's still getting me.
By storm due to their basketball abilities and upside as players. But in all 3 of those cases, they weren't the most well known to everyone due to their lack of outlets to show said players.
That's
online.
crazy.
This next player at one point was regarded as the next Kobe Bryant, and we all know him. It's Andrew Wiggins. We were all first introduced to Andrew at just 13 years old with his Hoop mixtape video. Best 13-year-old in the nation, 6'6", and 13. And from there, it was all over. With this video currently sitting at 5 million views.
He was already tall in middle school. Then when he reached high school, he was already one amongst the tallest. Then he just stopped growing. What?
Andrew Wiggins from that point on was regarded as a basketball
I remember this nigga.
In every game he played,
he's doing decently.
And I mean, where else will you find a complete 13-year-old at 6'6" who can dunk on anyone? This is never before seen stuff right here. And with him only being 13, that just means everyone is alongside for the journey ahead. Throughout his high school career, he started off in Canada with a 44-1 record, winning multiple championship games, and every game being reported for the viewing pleasure of North America. But it's when he went to Huntington Prep in West Virginia where he became a true household name, now holding the #1 recruit spot in high school ranks and averaging 23, 11, and 2 with 2.5 blocks alongside with that. He was quite literally unstoppable, and with the name Maple Jordan following him everywhere, a name he garnered in Canada, he would continue to beat top recruits over and over again, holding that spot as the best player of the 2013 high school recruiting class, over players like Jabari Parker, Julius Randle, Aaron Gordon, and Joel Embiid.
That's crazy.
And again, this just came from the fact that he had what people thought was a complete game at the high school level, being able to do it all offensively and getting that Kobe Bryant comparison as he decimated the high school field at his young age. And once he graced the cover of Slam magazine alongside Jabari Parker, the damage has been done. He's an American superstar now, and no one can stop talking about him and giving him all types of praise. Even though Andrew was a Canadian, he was an American sports legend now at the high school level. And he'd take his talent to Kansas, one of the most prestigious blue blood basketball schools, to once again prove his status as one of the best to go against the best in the NCAA ranks. At Kansas, though, he once again proved the hype was very much real.
Yeah.
The all-around offensive game of Andrew Wiggins was on display and now nationally televised. 41 points against West Virginia, 30 points against...
Again, I wasn't watching too much basketball, so I'm just taking in all the information. What I'm watching now, he's doing decent. He's doing good. Prior years before that... See, let's continue. I mean, I forgot he was at Timberwolves before he went to Warriors, and we want to see him do good with the Warriors. But with Minnesota, nah, he's been doing good. He's been doing good his whole time, in my opinion. I think he's been doing really well in all his years. He probably got injured a couple times, but he's been doing well. We want to see him do more with Warriors.
State 27 against TCU. And if you didn't know Andrew as a high schooler, you were forced to know him as a college athlete.
I wasn't.
As he headlined ESPN and other outlets with his play at Kansas, leading them to a top 10 ranking in the NCAA week after week, and being their best player, averaging 17-5 with a block and a steal a game on great shooting splits, considering his very much jump shot heavy game. This would lead him to all types of NCAA awards, and of course, the #1 pick of the NBA draft to the Minnesota Timberwolves. But as we all know, this is where his story comes to a screeching halt. Because as everyone was waiting to see what Michael Jordan would do at the professional level, we'd just be stuck at home waiting for him to turn into that Canadian phenom and finally make his Kobe Bryant-like jump and be the player that we all thought he would be. But overall, we see a slow but satisfying increase over the first 3 seasons of his career. But in that 4th season is when it came to a harsh stop, and no one could understand it all. On one hand, you can blame the organization for allowing Jimmy Butler to come in and hold his progress by trying to win a chip too quick and not allowing Wiggins to grow there more. But after 2 seasons of that, it was completely too late. The NBA world was against them, and the Wolves needed a slight restart. So they traded Andrew Wiggins to the Warriors. And well, he actually found a great role in Golden State. Andrew Wiggins may have not turned into the superstar like
that's crazy. I was wrong. God damn. I guess I wasn't watching what I was watching. Sheesh.
Out there.
I thought he's been doing good.
He was able to turn into a top-class wing with a support role through Stephen Curry, and as a wing defender being coached by Steve Kerr. And that, of course, turned into a 2002 NBA championship bout. Not as the main guy, but as a cog in a very efficient and effective engine. Now, while he didn't turn into the next Kobe Bryant like a lot of people expected, or really anything near that, to be able to humble yourself, become a top-class role player on a different team, and win a championship from that,
I wouldn't have thought he was going to be the next Kobe anyways.
How you allow your talent to be used in a different
and debatably better way.
But as we all know now, even though he didn't pan out to be a superstar, we can't say that he isn't a great player in the right system right now. And in that system, it turned him into a one-time NBA champion. Skip a half decade to the future, and there is one thing you notice about American society. We are becoming a lot more involved with social media day by day. And the same can be said about the next generation of sports fans and sports media by the way of their marketing and showing you the next big talents from the high school level. And while we haven't seen a lot of them come and go, whether for better or for worse, there is one in the year of 2016 that gave us the best highlights we have seen from a high school player. And that player was Zion Williamson. Now, Zion maybe might be one of the weirdest people of the bunch that we talked about today when it comes to the generational talent label, especially playing as a 6'6" forward and built more like an NFL linebacker than an NBA player. But you just knew that whenever you went online as a basketball viewer, you was going to see Zion somewhere and see him feasting at the high school level. There are so many videos you can see with Zion Williamson's high school highlights that skyrockets into the millions of views.
And then he had a pretty decent handle on his ass too. Like he could really control that bitch.
Video in AAU game against LaMelo Ball sitting at 15 million views. That is 3 million more than the 5th largest state in America, Pennsylvania. And if you didn't know anything about Zion, you were going to eventually. But what made Zion so great? Well, as we all know, physically you were not keeping up with him, you weren't jumping with him, and overall, there was nobody in a high school gymnasium that could really even guard him. Only person stopping him was, well, himself. But that was one of his main criticisms at the time as he played in the 2nd division of his high school league. And you could tell if you watch his highlights, his competition was not the best and nobody was physically able to even do anything to him. But that doesn't matter because the highlights came flowing and people wanted to see what he would just do next. But as he dominated the South Carolina hoop scene and leading his high school to 3 straight championships in his region, he went to Duke and everyone waited to see just how he would do against better
He did pretty well.
And well, if you didn't believe in Zion before, you were forced to be a believer now. Because everything he did in high school, he did that there. And then some in college. The dunks, the overpowering, the highlights, everything.
We wanted to see one. I think I watched one game. I know everybody wanted to see this nigga. Nah, I'm thinking of the All-Star game. And he let us the fuck down.
season in college, he gone and averaged 22.8 rebounds, 2 assists, with 2 steals and 2 blocks a game while shooting 68% from the field. You heard that right. A 6'6" forward shooting 68% from the field. Zion was a
he was in the paint like Shaquille, bro. Nobody could stop him, bro.
Specimen. In every game you'd see
not even Drew Timmy.
A breakaway slam where his head was near the rim of the backboard, a 360 dunk, or on the rare occasion him breaking his shoe in front of former president of the United States, Barack Obama. And as he'd walk away with every major award in college basketball and even winning the National Player of the Year award as a freshman, which has only been done 3 times. Himself, Anthony Davis, and Kevin Durant. All people that we talked about in this video today.
How do you know that?
He'd go on to be the #1 overall pick of the 2019 draft with all of that hype from college and high school behind him. But what has he done with it? Well, be injured. Stars, but I will avoid talking about that one. Anyway, Zion's NBA career has been the most hot and cold I have ever seen from a player.
We haven't seen him play too much. Like, he's always been injured. He's in a lot of controversy. Who knows? Me personally, I wouldn't have done it. But yeah. So many injuries, we haven't really seen him shine. We see him get on, he's a force to be reckoned with, then he gets injured again. Because he's losing his weight, like he's doing good for himself, but he's just an injured person.
4 of them, and missed the entire 2022 season due to a foot injury. And considering how much force he puts into his jumps and how much body fat he has and weight, you can only imagine that injury had to be bad. When he plays, he's an all-NBA caliber player that leads his team night in and night out. But when he's injured, the team falters. Even to the point to where his team were on the verge of making the playoffs last year with just needing him to get through the play-in. And in that season where Zion missed all but 29 games, he declined due to him not being back there mentally. And fucking Mariah Mills, but again, that is the last joke, I promise. But as the youngest player on this list, Zion still has plenty of time to put the wrecking ball.
You know, fix his body, you know, do more shit to prevent injuries, and he's good. He will be a nasty motherfucker for the next couple 5, 6 years.
Know him to be and to be healthy consistently. His career averages in 4 seasons, screams perennial All-NBA player and All-Star. He just needs to keep himself healthy. As of right now, he has for sure met the expectations of everyone and then some, still being an unstoppable force in the paint and slowly garnering an all-around game to help his team. But to fully get there, we're going to need to see a few healthy seasons and eventually an NBA championship. Now, Victor Wembanyama is the next man up, already showcasing his abilities for the world to see. Already putting ridiculous highlights for the world to see. And that has people's jaw dropping to the floor almost every single night. And already receiving future predictions of the level of impact similar to LeBron James. Will he meet that expectations? Only time will tell, and I will surely hope to see so myself. If he does, then the basketball world will be eating good for a long time, and the game itself will only end up more and more interesting as more taller players do the exact same he's doing, hopefully. Thank you for watching. Tell me your thoughts on the expectations we put on these players with these labels.
We put on crazy labels and expectations for these players. It's fucking ridiculous, in my honest opinion. But that's it. We're done. The video, Alvini Linguini, that was a good one. I enjoyed it. I thought there was going to be a Luka on this motherfucker. Maybe even, you know, probably like Lonzo. Because what Lonzo did, nasty. His stats says otherwise. Nasty. Again, I wasn't really watching too much. Udonis Haslem. That was a pretty huge name at the time. That's why I thought we were going to get deep. But I'm not mad at it. You know more than me. This is your whole thing. Looking at this information, I don't. My shit trash. But yeah, that was a good video. We about to get off here. I hope you enjoy. I'm off. I'm out of here. So it says, said in the video, said what it says, so we'll go be said. I love y'all. Hope you enjoy it.